Welcome to our latest podcast on leadership culture in healthcare, where we discuss, funnily enough, all things leadership and culture in the NHS and broader healthcare. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Andrew Strevens. Andrew is the Chief Executive of Solent NHS Trust. Andrew, introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about you, how long you've been doing your job, etc.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. So my name's Andrew Strevens. I'm the Chief Executive of Solent NHS Trust. Solent is a relatively small organisation, around about 260 to 70 million pound turnover, operating in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. We provide community services within Southampton. We provide mental health and community services in Portsmouth, and we provide a range of community services across the whole footprint of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. I've been with Solent just over 8 years now. I joined in 2015 and I've seen many changes. I've been the chief executive for the last 2 years, and I've really enjoyed my time working within the organisation. What makes me proud is the journey that we've been on. So back in 2015, we decided as an organisation that we wanted to change our culture and values and really engage with our staff. We wanted to change our outlook on life. And we did that really in conjunction and co-produced it with our workforce. And then we used some really simple terminology in terms of our mission statements and our values, which really resonates with our staff. And what we also make happen is that we live those values as well, and we demonstrably live those values, and we reflect upon them in everything we do. And if I probably go back into, say, our mission statement, we did try and simplify it. And we've got a very simple philosophy, which is we want to provide great care, be a great place to work, and provide great value for money. And I think that that's simple because actually the greats, people remember that. It's important to them. I sometimes flip it slightly in terms of recognizing that our workforce are our biggest asset and our best asset. We need to do everything possible to make sure that our workforce can be the best that they can be. So therefore, by providing a great place to work, I think that leads to great care and then ultimately to great value for money. So I think that for me is a really simple philosophy. And then in terms of our values, we put it around the word heart, which again kind of resonates and is quite a nice way of remembering things, but also it goes to the heart of the matter. And being a community provider, we talk about being at the heart of the community. And our values are honesty, everyone counts, accountability, respect, and teamwork. And that's what we try and live every day throughout our time.
Yeah, fascinating. And what you said earlier that we decided, I think, did you say 2016?
Yeah.
But to do something different. What prompted you and the team to decide to do something different at that point?
I think it was in reality, we had a new chief executive who joined the organisation, I think 2014-15, and came into a situation whereby the organisation was actually in quite a lot of financial distress. So she came into a significant deficit, which she hadn't been anticipating. She also came into, I think, an executive team which wasn't singing off the same hymn sheet. There was discord. So she took time to build the team that she wanted, and then took time to actually think about what does the organisation need. In relation to that, the concept being that the workforce and people who are at the sharp end are actually the best to come up with solutions. So if you honestly lay out what the problem is, then they will come up with solutions. So we wanted to build that into the philosophy of the new organisation. Linked into that was the issue about accountability as well. Again, so, we want your solutions, but we also want everyone to be accountable to this. So that's where it started from the need to actually transform. And part of what we did, and particularly when I joined as the chief finance officer, we did something which was probably going against the grain, but made sense. So rather than look at the traditional cost improvement plans, which historically have been about salami slicing, what can you shave off here, etc. For us, it was actually, we want to equip our workforce. So we actually put in a significant investment in both organizational development, so training on our middle leaders, our senior leaders, all that kind of stuff. But we've also put a significant amount of money into quality improvement and continuous improvement, because we wanted our teams and our staff to be trying new things, to innovate and have permission to innovate, but do it within a kind of a framework to enable them to do that. So we invested a significant amount of money on the premise that actually would deliver savings in due course. So it's, I suppose, an investor save, but an investor save taking a punt that the changes would work. And I think the results show that actually over 2 or 3 years, we actually eliminated the deficits, and we've been meeting our control total ever since. And our staff survey results have increased year on year.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because I imagine as you then being a finance director, that was potentially quite a difficult place to be, because you were embarking on something that didn't necessarily have a destination. You were going on faith that those things would make a difference, and couldn't have the tangible approach of how you would realize that. So what was that like, leading and living with that change as a team?
For me, I mean, slightly oddly, I mean, I'm entirely comfortable with that, because actually the status quo wasn't acceptable. And it has parallels with what we see kind of within the financial system nationally as well at the moment. The status quo clearly isn't the answer, so we do need to change. So actually, how do we invest to try and get the best outcome that we can do, which is, to my mind, investing in our staff and investing in the thought processes and enabling them to innovate and to make mistakes, but on the premise that we learn from our mistakes, and then that comes up with better solutions. So for me, that I'm completely comfortable with that philosophy, and I'd rather think about the value as opposed to the cost. And I think that the value that I could foresee by investing was significant.
Yeah. And so help our people who are listening to this podcast, help them understand tangibly what was different then. What are some of the practical things after you've embarked this in 2016, and also probably some of the things that no doubt you've sustained in continuing to do right up to now? So what were the ingredients of all that?
So probably there's quite a few, and leadership does start from the top. So it's important that to be able to demonstrate this. So some of it was actually physically being with teams and celebrating the quality improvement work that they were doing. We've run a number of conferences over the years whereby teams come up and discuss the idea they had, the approach they took, the lessons they learnt, and how they've changed their practice. Now, in some of those things, the ideas they came up with and what they ended up with were completely different. And it's a case of, well, that's good. Actually, part of doing the quality improvement was actually learning about what was best. And by talking to patients, to talking to our communities, that helped change our minds in some areas. And that was good. So again, it's that really positive affirmation that actually by doing this, that's okay. And it's okay that we don't have the answers to begin with. And it's okay if we involve others to find the answers. That's all good. We also make sure that we are very open and honest in anything we do, which is not just QI, but generally. So recognizing that mistakes will be made, whether it's coming through a complaint or whether it's coming through kind of other mechanisms. Do you know, it's okay. Let's investigate it. Let's learn the lessons, and let's not kind of blame people, but learn from the issues. So we've been really visible in terms of that, and I do that as well in terms of when issues are flagged. to actually thank people for flagging issues, because actually then we can learn about it and deal with those issues. So again, that's a very visible thing that we do.
And just drill down a little bit more, because there's been some recent coverage about duty of candor and how do organizations really do what I think you're saying is be honest about when things go wrong and what they've done about it. So how is that kind of manifested in a different way of operating for you at Solent?
I think it's by encouraging a very open debate, which goes all the way from our people working in our communities or in our hospitals, all the way through to the board. And that we flag issues as and when they come up. We don't always need to know what the answers are, but we will flag those issues so that we can start addressing them. And I think it is that really clear reporting up and down the line, which is so important. So we encourage people to come forward with issues and problems, and likewise we encourage them to come forward with successes, which I'll come on to maybe a bit later on. But it's recognition that we will endeavour to do everything that we can do to do the right things, but sometimes we don't. And it's more important to be able to say it didn't go right, and this is what we've learned, and this is what we're doing now, as opposed to it's not really an issue. No, it is an issue because it had impacted upon a patient.
Yeah. I interrupted you. You were mid-flow about talking about how your culture manifests.
It is that really open, transparent culture, which I think is really important. So for me, in terms of our heart values, it's the honesty, but it's the accountability as well. And I think that's really important. The flip side to some of that is also that we do a lot in terms of recognition of staff as well, which I think is really, really important. So we hold our kind of annual staff award ceremony, but we do stuff in between as well. So within my organisation, we run a monthly colleague of the month, team of the month, team leader of the month. But these are nominations coming from within the workforce. They're not coming from up high. It is the workforce, or from patients, or from some of the community groups, which is really important. And when we decide on the eventual winners, we always have someone who's been a previous winner and someone from a community group as well, just to get that kind of really good picture. But we publicise that, and I ensure that we have the awards given to the various individuals by a member of the executive, just to say recognition. And there's a kind of like a certificate and some gift vouchers and stuff like that. But it's just that recognition, but also saying thank you is massively important. Likewise, in terms of celebrations, we do have an annual Nurses' Day to celebrate everything that they do. We also have an Allied Health Professional Day, and then we have kind of like a Support Services Day as well. But just recognising that everyone is focused upon delivering great patient care, and we are all a team. Those sort of things again are really important and go down very well with our staff because they recognise that they see themselves within that. Other things that we do is the normal kind of long service awards, but again, we want people to be recognised and deliver, so executives to deliver out. I mean, like you, Matthew, we're a community provider in mental health, and we operate from over 100 sites. So actually, it's important for me and my executives to get actually out and about to meet people, particularly those slightly more out of reach areas as well, and that's encouraged. So that great visibility is another thing that we make a big play on. And then finally, having just mentioned visibility, that is really important. So what we want to do is make sure that anyone can make any contact with any executives. So we have a real open door policy. Now, one of the things that I do is I have a half-hour kind of conversation with the chief executive, so like chat with the chief executive, where it's Teams meeting, so it enables anyone to be able on that. So there's no invitation; it's an open invitation, and anyone can ask any question of me in that forum. And I encourage that and say it's a safe place. What I want to hear is what issues you've got, or any concerns, or anything you're really proud about. And that works to me as well, because actually enables people to reach out. So although sometimes people may not be able to do that on that particular session, they know that actually they can email me or they can Teams message me about issues as well. And I think they can do that amongst any of my executives. And finally, in relation to this visibility, I think slightly differently to some organisations, we make it a point of principle that for people who come on induction, so new people who join the organisation, they go through an induction exercise, which is principally online rather than in person. But we always have a member of the executive welcome them and talk a little bit about the trust and about what we do and why it's important. And we're pleased that they have joined the organisation. That sets a good tone for people when they join.
Yeah, an interesting, not a model that happens everywhere, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, we've been told that it does have an impact on people, and people who've come from other organisations think, oh wow, actually that's really nice. We should try that. And for me, I mean, it's only 5 minutes, just saying hello, and it's a really simple thing to do, particularly if it's remote as well. So you can just literally just join the meeting.
Yeah. So I want to drill into one other area. You mentioned the word accountability earlier. So I thought it was a really helpful frame that you said, is that we were unsustainable. We needed to do something different. The status quo was just not acceptable. We had to try something else, and we got great results. Interestingly, not immediate, but over a couple of years, and it got improved. But accountability was clear. And one of the things that I hear bounded about, and it's easy in our social media world, is all this leadership stuff is fluffy. It's non-essential. We just need to kind of get everything sorted. But you clearly in Solent have taken a very purposeful route with outcomes. But you were talking about accountability was clear. So just talk about that balance of accountability and support. How does that play out?
It's an interesting question. I suppose I think in a variety of ways, and I'm going to probably use an example whereby again where we change things, and I think much more for the better. So particularly actually during COVID, we had senior leadership teams previously, which I think were more about broadcasting out information rather than about shared understanding or shared decision making. And we created what we call our clinical executive group, which is in essence our clinical directors who lead our service lines coming together with the executives to go over some of the key issues facing the organisation and some of the strategic choices within the organisation to enable the clinical voice to be heard, but also to help shape the decisions as well. And that, to my mind, has been massively successful because actually there is now a complete alignment about where the organisation is and where the organisation should be going, how we resolve issues. And historically, I think I've seen this within other organisations, there's a real divide sometimes between operations and the clinical side and the financial side. But now it's all aligned. So our clinical directors, who we have that triumvirate model within our service lines, they are the first amongst equals. So they are effectively accountable for their service lines, and they feel equally accountable for the quality of their services as they do for their financial numbers as well. So that I think is a clear shift from where we had been, because we want to encourage having accountability within the organisation, but also having that transparency and also the openness as well. So they do feel accountable, and as a result, there is much more scrutiny about what options each of the different service lines have in terms of addressing financial issues and joint learning as well. So we put all sorts of support packages in place as well, so they are upskilled to be able to do that, but also part of that upskilling is actually being involved in the conversations.
Yeah. So really tangible structural elements, but
Yeah,
then at the heart of it, a culturally driven, purposeful approach of aligning all those things. Yeah.
yes, very, very much so.
And so as an organization, if we look at your staff survey results, which is one of the reasons that we're talking, because you've got, staff have given really good results. So, you're either the best score or joint best score in We Are the Team, staff engagement, we a voice that counts. I'm just looking at your scores in front of me, and I think there's one more recognized and rewarded.
And
And
the other
last
one,
one, compassionate, inclusive.
yeah,
Yeah, mustn't do you
yeah.
out of it. Sorry, sorry, Solent, mustn't do that. And you know, it's hard to maintain that. So you as you say, that has developed over time, and you now have best or joint scores in all of those areas. So that's 2/3 of the themes you are doing top scores against your peers. How, what do you do to maintain that? I'm sure you don't do it, and none of us do it to get good staff survey results. But what do you how you've done so much impetus to make change. How does the leadership team continue that approach? Because my experience would be sometimes it's quite easy to do some great things and then just retrench a bit and forget to do those things. So what is it going on in Solent that continues to be great?
I think it goes back to the kind of approach that we want to be a learning organization. So having talked about learning from mistakes in other areas, we want to learn about where we can improve. And we do a significant amount of engagement with our workforce to actually say, we've got the staff survey results, and it's really important you tell us how we can improve. So, we used a lot of the free text comments to identify kind of themes and areas where we can improve. We also look at individual teams and service lines in comparison to others to try and learn from the best. But also, it's not okay for us to be doing well in some areas, but not doing it as best we can do in some areas. And I'm thinking particularly in relation to some of our protected characteristics. So, although in comparison with national, we do well in some of the questions, top quartile or even top. It's still not okay that there is a difference about bullying and harassment and workforce opportunities for our BAME staff or other staff. That's not a good position to be in. Similarly with disciplinaries. So what is it that we can still do to improve? Likewise with our disability statistics as well. There are stark differences between those with a disability and those without a disability. And that's not, if we are a compassionate and inclusive workforce, which we do really well on, that's still not okay that we have those stark differences. So what is it we can do to change? So we are always willing to learn and to listen and to improve. And I think that relentless side to it is so important, because actually then that comes across not only in future staff surveys, but also when you speak to our kind of staff networks, they feel supported and they want to make change as well. I mean, we do have a variety of different staff networks, and we've put money behind those as well, which I don't know how that compares to other organisations. But we have things like an LGBTQ plus, we have a BAME network, a disability network, a carers network, an over 50s network, a faith network, and then finally we also have a veterans network as well. And we've put resources around that, not only in supporting kind of chairs and joint chairs in terms of that, but also admin and communication support. And we encourage, and we've done this within our senior leadership team, to say, actually, we want you to encourage your teams to enable them to be able to take part in the sessions that we run. So it's those sort of things which I think helps us improve year on year. I mean, so in 21, I think we came top or joint top in 3 of the categories. Last year we were top in, as you say, I think 5 out of the 9 categories. I don't know what this year's results will be, and obviously they're embargoed. But we would want to continue to be really high scoring, because for us it's vital. I say, for me, great place to work equates to great care.
And of course, there's no competition between our organisations on where we all land on that at all, is there? No.
No, no, no. But it's good because we do want to learn, and it's important, because actually I'd love us all to create the environment where everyone can be their best, and that's really important to me.
Let me just change tack slightly. Let's talk about you, Andrew. So you 8 years of organisation, a few years now as chief executive. How would you characterize your personal impact on the organisation, the distinct from you versus previous chief execs and others around? What might that be?
I won't want to make comparisons with others, but I'll talk about what I do. So for me, part of my role is communications and thank you, and it has been the front for the organisation. And it's really important for me to do the things like the celebratory events, to go out to teams who have won awards and thank them, and do that and be really visible doing that. I also want to make time, and do make time, to go out and site visits and talk to teams, understanding what the issues are. I mean, I think it's a key part of my role as chief executive to understand that, to hear unfiltered what the issues are from the people on the workforce. Other areas which I visibly do is actually, say, support quality improvement initiatives, but also support learning as well. So one of the things I've done over the last year, and I've been very proud to be part of the programme, is reverse mentoring. And in this instance, I was reverse mentored with a junior member of staff whose parents, one was white and one was black. And to listen to her experiences is really important to me, and to do it in a structure which enabled her to feel safe, to be able to tell truth to power, was important to me. So it's that, being a visible champion for those things. I also co-chair, sorry, I don't co-chair, I sponsor to the networks within my organisation, which is the Disability Network and the over 50s. And I also ensure my executives sponsor different networks as well. Again, it's that visibility that actually this is really, really important to the organisation. I think the other thing which is I do, which is really important, is that open door. So people know that they can actually talk to me, and know that actually when we have conversations, I will keep the information confidential, but I will try and progress things to satisfactory conclusions as well. I think it's that visibility and being known for that, but also the integrity, I think, is the other thing, that people know that when I speak because actually these are things I really believe in, and I'm passionate about. So I think that's the third thing, because I think people can see through when things aren't quite right. So what I do is, I know, for me, I'm always honest, I'm always upfront about things, and people recognise that.
And kind of coming to the end of this, we could go on for ages, and I've got so many questions, but I promised we'll keep this to time. But you've done a lot, and your predecessors and your teams have done a lot in Solent to kind of make it, work really well. You're trusted, but you're about to go through some major change, and cultural change and organisational change, as has happened across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, which I'm sure will be great, but it will take time. So just thinking about you and your teams, what sustains you to keep going? What motivates you to kind of carry on and make sure what you've been describing to everybody actually is still there?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. I think there is a significant amount of change, and sometimes change causes turbulence, but we've always kept the North Star being, actually, this is going to be the better for our population within Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. I think that's really important, because we're here to deliver great care to our population. So for me, I think that's what keeps us going, is in terms of recognising that's the goal. So there are disturbances, and I say change can sometimes be unsettling. It's important that we work through that in a proactive and positive fashion, because actually we all agree that the goal is there and is there to be achieved. and it's a significant goal. Part of that is also then bringing our staff along with us, because we want them to land into the new organisation and for them to help shape the culture and values of the new organisation. And we've done a huge amount of that for a variety of different means over the last 2 years to do that. So everyone wants the new organisation to be the best it can be, getting the best bits from all the organisations and kind of melding it into something new and exciting, but with the premise that actually it's the patient care at the end of the day and doing the best for our population.
And I think a reflection from me listening to you, Andrew, and is it would be very easy, as happens often in the NHS, I think much to our detriment, that people answer that about their organisation or about their role. You hardly mentioned yourself. You hardly mentioned the organisation. You mentioned your staff, helping them create the future and actually doing the right thing for the local residents of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And I think that's to you and the team's credit, because those are really hard things to do rather than revert back to my title and my parameters in who employs me, isn't it? And that, I assume, that's going to be really key for you going forward, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I think it's massively important that we put aside our kind of maybe our personal agendas to think about what the size of the prize is. Now, it's exciting that we're creating this new organisation, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, but the same is going to be across the whole system, because actually, in reality, we're all going to have to change, whether we're a community and mental health provider, or whether we're in the acute sector, or whether we're primary care. We're all going to have to change, and also local authorities, because actually the status quo is not okay. We're crashing and burning. So we all need to change, but also we all need to keep that, because the mindset is what's the best for the population. And I'm actually really excited about some of the changes we can make about prevention and moving all that activity out of the acute sector into that kind of prevention and population management health-wise going forward.
Andrew, thank you so much for spending time talking all things leadership and culture in healthcare. It's been fascinating. It's been a delight to listen to you. And thank you for all that you do down on the South Coast.
Right. Thank you very much.